everyone. Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Good morning, Rush Nation, although it might be afternoon, evening by the time you hear this. It's been a hectic couple of days, so sorry about a bit of the quiet that's happened, but it's going to be a lot of content dropping over the next 24 hours to make up for all of that. I can promise you that. First of all, shout out to everybody in the FFCC. Lots of games have gone on, lots of things going on. Congratulations to the 128 still in the main event. Congratulations to 128, or commiserations for rolling into the plate. And congratulations to the 63 still alive in the Squid Game. Lots going on in that tournament, and I will keep everyone up to date with that as the week progresses. But we're here to talk matchups. We're here to talk about Thursday Night Football. We're here to talk about the early window. I've had so much great feedback on this show, so thank you so much on it. Still a work in progress show. I want to get all the information to you as best I can. And that's why I've been inviting this. This is the hardest show for me. It's packed so full of information. What is the best way to deliver it? So I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to do it in two parts. We're going to do Thursday Night Football in the early slate. I think I used to do this in the past, and I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to pack it with a bit more information, a bit more context to the rankings. And I'm not going to show my rankings in this part. I'm going to show it in part two. Two reasons for that. One, I want to get this out, and it takes a lot longer to render when I share the screen. And I want to get this one out so people can set lineups and have plenty of time to digest it. And two is this slate of games. There's not that as many interesting games in this one. So I think when that happens, it's good to talk about the context. And I want to do that a little bit more, which means I think want your full attention when you're listening or watching this. If you're listening to this in podcast form and you haven't tried watching this in video form, I do recommend it, at least the part two. This part you might not need to because it's just me talking. But part two, I recommend, because I will show all my rankings. I'll have every position and we'll go through it on there. So let's go through this. Start with Thursday Night Football. Tonight's game, Packers at the Jets. The Jets are favored to win this by 6. The over-under is a very low 38.5. And the context of this game is really two good defenses, two not great offenses, although it's fair to say that the Patriots offense has been better than expected, although they haven't faced a D like the Jets. The Jets offense is a little bit undercooked that relies on Breece Hall. And that is really where we are. And the rankings of this game are going to overly reflect this. I expect the Patriots to be pretty bad in this game. I don't expect them to score a lot of points. And so as a result of that, I think you might be a little bit surprised by some of the rankings, but for me, there's only one Patriot this week, or two Patriots you can start, and then you can start potentially the DST to chase turnovers. They are probably the only three players or three picks on that side of the ball. It's very similar on the Jets side. Really, there isn't that many players. If you're playing Superflex, there might be a couple of additional options, but there isn't many. I'll start with the Patriots. I have Jacoby Brissett ranked dead last this week at 32. Of all the starting quarterbacks, he is 32. It's not a slight on him. It's just this defense is really, really good. And so it's really difficult to see a pathway for them moving the ball successfully and frequently on this D. They're not going to get the big chunk plays. They're going to find it really difficult. It's going to be stuff over the middle. Ramondre Stevenson is a decent pick this week. He's RB14. There is some success against the run against the Jets. And to be honest, I think they're going to allow moderate success against the run because they know they've got the pass coverage. It's one of the best pass coverages in the NFL. With that in mind, I haven't ranked a single Patriots wide receiver inside the top 80 this week. So Polk is my highest. He's at 81. So fade all the Patriots receivers this week. It is not a week. They might dink a touchdown and get in the box and save a week. I can't predict that. And I don't feel good predicting that. If I'm relying on touchdowns to boost rankings, we have a fundamental problem with the offense as a whole. So that's why I'm staying away from this whole offense this week, and you should too. I do have Hunter Henry as my tight end 6. That is high because I think if they are going to get touchdowns, it will be through him. And I think that what will happen with the Jets, they'll cover everything out wide and everything will funnel through the middle. And they'll say, take a 10-yard play over the middle, fine. And they'll have a slight bend, don't break. And they will force Jacoby Brissett, once they get inside the 30-40, to then start making deeper throws. So I think that early chunk plays in their own half are going to come from Stevenson and Hunter Henry. And that's the only way I see the Patriots moving this ball tonight. You might get a few plays outside, but I don't think you're going to get a lot. I have the DST at 15. I think you can start them. I think you can always expect a turnover from them. They're a well-drilled unit. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is at his absolute best. And I think there's an opportunity there. And I don't think that the Jets will score tons of points. I don't think they're going to win this one. I think 6 is a good line. 6-7, I think, is a good line, definitely. So I don't have a problem with that. And then I have Sly as the second to last kicker. To be honest, that might be a little low. I could move him up before Thursday Night Football. There's a case that they settle for field goals and could be forced to, and Sly could move up a few rankings. But I don't see them scoring many points. On the Jets, I don't see them scoring a ton of points either. This is a good Patriots D. I have Rodgers down at 21. He's not mobile. He's not getting tons and tons of yards through the air. I don't think the Patriots are going to allow lots of tons of yards through the air. He doesn't have a lot of weapons to throw to. It's going to be a very containment situation. But I do love Breece Hall this week. He is my RB2. There's only one player I have ranked above him in the RB situation. Garrett Wilson, I have a wide receiver 21. It's probably lower than consensus. He's got a high target share. I get that. Not doing a great deal. It's not his fault. But I think they will contain him fairly. I think he'll have like a 6 for 70, 80 day kind of thing. Not miraculous, not bad. He'll do okay. I have Lazard at wide receiver 66. If you want to have a gamble in a flex spot, there's better, but okay. I don't hate it. I have Conklin at 20. I'm not starting him, but I do have the Jets DST at 3. They're my third ranked defense this week, and I think they're a good bet to get turnovers on Jacoby Brissett. Greg Zuerlein, kicker 22. Don't expect him to do too much either. Let's move to Sunday. I'm going to do just the early window, and I'm going to cut it here, and we'll do a second video later on. Giants at the Browns. The Browns are favored by 6.5, which kind of just tells you how bad the Giants are. Again, another low-scoring game. Under 40. It's 38.5. We're not going to expect another flow full of points here. So again, the rankings are going to be very similar to the game I talked about. I think for the Giants, it's a pretty meh offense. It's kind of what we expected. Daniel Jones is my QB 22. He'll get some movement from Malik Neighbors, who's going to target at a 30% plus rate. But I do expect Wan'Dale Robinson, because of how good they are in deep coverage, the Browns, to get quite a bit underneath. And I think he'll get more underneath this week than he did last week. Now, last week, his week was saved by a touchdown. I think he'll be peppered with a significant amount of targets this week as they try and move the ball, because effectively the only ways they've got to move in this ball are Malik Neighbors and Devin Singletary, and that's not quite going to be enough this week for the Giants against the Browns. You know, they played the Washington Commanders last week. This defense is a lot better. It's one of the best in the league. So with that in mind, I do have Wan'Dale Robinson getting some targets. So I have Singletary at RB24, bottom of the RB2 situation. I think game script goes against them. They're going to have to abandon the run, try and put the ball in the air, which is why I've got Malik Neighbors as my RB7. He's going to be 30% plus target share, and they're going to have to get vertical to even stay in this game. I do have Wan'Dale at wide receiver 48.5 point. If I was doing that in PPR, he would be significantly elevated. And I reflect that because I think the air dot, the average distance to target, is going to be very small. It's going to be slot, dinky stuff inside of 5 yards. So he could have a stat line of like 7 for 42, which in PPR is 11.2 points. That's great. In half point, it's not quite 10 points. That's why it's a bit low in the rank. So these ranks are all half point. So in a PPR, he goes up. In a standard, he goes way down, doesn't start. It's all reception based with him. DST 20 for the Giants. They might get a turnover. They're not going to concede a ton of points or a ton of yards, but it'll be enough. Joseph is my bottom place kicker this week. He is kicker 32 for me this week. Sort of coming in cold. As for the Browns, I like Deshaun Watson this week. This is a good matchup for him to continue this get right program. He was only had a decent week last week. Not exceptional, but not bad. He is QB 14. I've Jerome Ford at RB 21. I think he gets chipped a little bit by Donta Foreman, who's RB 37 in my ranks. However, having said that, if the game script is dominant, it has to be for Ford to be a top 15 running back. It has to be a reasonably close game, and I don't think it will be, which is why I think they'll rest a little bit of Ford. They'll let Foreman come in, get some garbage time yards and carries, and I think that's why I have him at 21-37. That's my thinking on the game and the context of this. I think the Browns will win comfortably. I think in the fourth quarter they'll start rotating some guys a little bit. So just some context there. I have Amari Cooper at wide receiver 23. I think he could eat early, and he has a phenomenal matchup in my wide receiver cornerback column that I have submitted to Fantasy Pros. I don't think it's gone live yet. I have him as one of my advantageous matchups. I think it's a superb matchup for him. My concern is this game is a bit of a blowout, and they stop throwing the football his way. And that could happen. That's why he's at 23. It's a bit of a conservative, but there is a good case for him to eat in the first half and get a massive, massive points total. It kind of depends if they want to exploit that matchup. Jerry Jeudy is a wide receiver 39. I think they'll keep trying to get him into the game, especially late on if they're going to throw some things, just to keep stretching, keep New York on the back foot, and keep Deshaun Watson's rhythm going. Jerry Jeudy is a great route runner, one of the best in his draft class, if not the best in his draft class. But it's just not quite come together for him in the NFL. But the one thing he is a good route runner. So I think they'll start to try and get that relationship going a little bit stronger, which is why I'm wide receiver 39 this week. I'm not starting any of the DSTs in this tight ends in this game. They're not worth the weight of anything in this game, but I do have the Browns as the DST1. I think they're going to turn over Daniel Jones a bunch. I could see them getting a pick six. I can see them getting a defensive touchdown, if not more, which is why I have them as my DST1 this week. Hopkins is my kicker 19. Not desperate to start him. Don't absolutely hate it, but there are better options out there. Moving on to the Bears at the Colts. Weirdly, well, I guess it's semi-weird. The Vegas line is 43.5, so I'm not sure I'm buying. And the Colts are favored by 1.5. Both these offenses have been bad. So where we think we're going to get 43.5 points from, I'm not sure. I'd smash the under if it's me. If I'm a betting man, I'm not. But if I was, I definitely think the under's in play in this game. Let's start with the Bears. Caleb Williams has not been great. He's struggling. And it makes me question the scheme that they're trying to run. It's only 2 games, so I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. But I think you've got a number 1 overall pick who's incredibly talented. And he is struggling. And he is struggling very visibly. And it's very, very difficult. Is it the scheme? Is it the player? I'm leaning towards the scheme at this stage. Especially as Justin Fields had no success with that scheme. Starting to get a picture here that when you put more one young quarterback in here and they're not doing it, who is really at fault? So quarterback 23 for Williams, RB 27 for Swift. I think they will be behind in this game. I don't think Swift has been revolutionary in this offense. I don't think they can scheme great runs to him. He's not been used in the passing game as much as he probably should be. And so he is really chipped and capped at where he is with a sort of low floor, low ceiling kind of option here. I have DJ Moore at wide receiver 27. And again, I just don't think that they're struggling to get the ball vertical. And that is really it. Colts have got some really good linebackers who can get sideline to sideline very quickly. They're going to really limit the plays that are going to be available to DJ Moore. So the only success he's having is either to go really vertical, which Caleb Williams is struggling to execute, or to come short and try and chip away in those sort of mid-range areas. And that might be an area that he has some success, which is why I have him at wide receiver 27. Keenan Allen is questionable for this game. not entirely sure if he goes. I've got him at wide receiver 46 if he does go. I think it's, again, he might get some stuff underneath as well. I struggle about how much they're going to get the ball going in this game. I don't have the DST. I don't have the tight ends in this game ranked anywhere significant, so I'm not even going to talk about them. The Bears are DST 13. I think Anthony Richardson is throwing interceptions like Christmas presents. You can get 1 or 2, and I think they will, but I do think they'll also concede some points and some yards here. Cairo Santos is my kicker 17. Steady, reliable. He's not really one that's going to challenge the top 12 this week, especially if they struggle with football. The Colts -1.5. No, I think they probably win this game. I go with the coaches, and I think they've got the best coaches in the game. Richardson, I have as QB9. I think he'll have a nice safe floor with rushing. The QB9 thing is kind of a state of where the quarterback play is, as opposed to how great Richardson's been, because he hasn't been good at all. But I think it's a damning indictment that just his rushing floor alone is going to elevate him into the top 10 when he is not completing more than 50% of his passes. That is the damning indictment. It's more the position and how bad the position has been with an average of like 220 passing yards a game or per quarterback per game. That's kind of been why my ranks are the way they are, versus that I think that Anthony Richardson's going to have a phenomenal week. I have to follow the trend that I don't think the quarterbacks are going to be phenomenal again. And so as a result, I'm going on his rushing floor elevates him. And you're going to hear me say something very similar when we get to Jaden Daniels. I have Jonathan Taylor at RB9. I think they're going to get into a situation where they're kind of recognizing this, that if they're going to be a good football team, they have to limit his usage. So they're capping his usage. They're using him to a point where it's a lost cause, won or lost. It was a lost cause last week. They pulled him, and that's why he was rested. It's a really smart move. Like, good teams do, like, good coaches do this. They realize, hey, why do we need to flog Jonathan Taylor when we've got one of the best running backs in the game? When this game is over, it's done. Like, wave the white flag, bring some other guys in, let them get some touches. I have him at 9. I think he could be impactful. I just don't think he's going to have the ceiling this week to really take it. I think the Bears have been good against the run so far this season. Pittman, I have all the way down at wide receiver 26. He's got all great peripheral numbers. All the peripheral numbers are where we want them to be. The quarterback play has affected him significantly. Also, on top of that, the matchup he has is really bad. Not a good matchup for him at all this week. And so as a result of that, we are in a spot where I need to get away from thinking that he's going to fulfill all those peripheral numbers this week. Sorry, I just had a bit of a brain dart this week. So yeah, for me, where I'm at with them is really simple. It's Pittman will have a decent week. I've got him at top end wide receiver 3 purely on volume, but his matchup is really, really tough. One of the toughest cornerback matchups he's going to face this week. So I liken him to not struggle. Like, I think he's going to be peppered. Jalen Johnson, by the way, is allowing the least amount of fantasy points per route run against him so far. Fantasy points per route run against him so far this season. It's less than 0.1. So that's huge. He's not getting targeted a lot either. Less than 10%. I think it's like 9.1%. Don't quote me on the figure. Somewhere in the 9-point-something% that you can quote. So as a result of that, they obviously see him as a big threat or offensive coordinator so far, but he's also not met the volume that, Michael Pittman Jr. should get 7-8 targets in this game as a minimum. So James Johnson's going to have to do a little bit more in this game. That's a tough matchup, though. And so that's what caps me a little bit on Pittman. Pierce is wide receiver 51. Josh Downs is all the way down in the late 60s for me. I think this is a great game for Josh Downs. And I think it's great for Pittman, as I've sort of said in the show on Tuesday, that Pittman needs Downs to come back, and I think he'll get some work, but I just don't think he's going to be at a full pitch count just yet. Colts at DST 11. I think they will take away the ball a couple of times in this game, and I have Matt Gay at 24. He is questionable. He might not go. Texans at Vikings. Texans are favored by 2.5. Points totals 46. I think that's a good line here. I think that is not too far away from what it will be, if I'm truly honest. I'll start with the Texans. I do think that 2.5 is probably a little soft. I can see them winning the game maybe by 5 or more. So it's giving some credit to the Vikings and their tenacity, but they also are a bit banged up. Justin Jefferson is banged up. Jordan Addison is banged up. Aaron Jones, I think, is a little bit banged up. So they've got a lot of players who are banged up. So the Texans by 2.5 doesn't quite feel like that's right, but the points total I think is fair. I actually think that the Texans will win this comfortably. CJ Stroud, my quarterback 11, I think he'll have a good week. He's obviously not reached the levels of last year yet, but I think time will come and it will happen. Joe Mixon is questionable. I've got him at the moment to go, but this could change. At the moment, he's my RB19. I can see them putting him on a bit of a count. And I think as well, if they are winning this game comfortably, which I kind of think they are, then I think what will happen is they'll bring in Cam Akers and let Cam Akers take some of the work. I'm not ranking Cam Akers as someone that you need to be playing, by the way. He's outside my top 50. My point is, top 40, I think, at least. But my point is that I'm Mixon's a start, but don't expect what we saw in week 1 because I think they're going to cap his work if he does go. Nico Collins, I've got to go at the moment, but again, he is also questionable. A lot of questionable players in this game. This could really change. So this line could really move significantly, by the way. But the reason why I'm saying I still have the Texans comfortably despite these questionables is they're much deeper. They have much better talent across the board in every position than depth. That if Nico Collins is missing, you still got Diggs, you still got Tank Dell. No disrespect to Jalen Naylor. I really like Jalen Naylor. I was one of the first to call out that he was someone that should be added in drafts. My point is that even though that is the case, he's not Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. No disrespect to him. Nico Collins, I have at QB, wide receiver 8 right now. That could change depending on how he practices the rest of the week. It is only Thursday morning. Diggs is my wide receiver 31. Dell is my wide receiver 33. Again, all 3 of those ranks could change depending as the week extrapolates. So just keep checking out everything on Fiverr Rush for that. Schultz, I have a tight end 19. Prefer not to start him, but we'll see what happens. I have the Texans as DST 17. Not a great week for them matchup wise, so could start them if you have them, but they're not going to be huge for you. But Kyrie Fairbairn, kicker 2, you can take him to the bank this week. He's going to be one of the leading kickers in the game for sure. As for the Vikings, Darnold, QB 17, I think that's about where he is. He'll have good plays, he'll have some bad plays, but his numbers will be average, and I've ranked him as average accordingly. QB 17 is sort of right in the middle of the QB ranks, and I don't think anyone's going to sit here and be alarmed that is where I've got him this week. I have Aaron Jones at RB23 and Ty Chandler at 39. I think Chandler will take a bit of work, and we kind of saw this last week, this transition. It's going to be a bit of a bumpy road until they work out what they want to do with this backfield, so I'm just not overly confident that they have settled on the best way to utilize both backs. And I think they will get there, but I don't think they're there yet. Then we have Justin Jefferson. He is questionable, but I have him at wide receiver 6. I think he'll be fine. I don't have Justin Jefferson ranked anywhere significant. I have him ranked around about 151, 152, I think, at the moment. I'm just not sure if he's going to go. I haven't seen enough. So I have a couple of players sort of at the very bottom of my ranks, like T. Higgins, etc., who I'm not sure on their status enough to want to bank on it yet. So I have Jalen Naylor as my wide receiver 40. I'm probably over consensus on that, but I feel like someone's going to have to be in this game, and I think it's going to be him, especially if they're trading the Texans and need to be vertical with his speed. They can utilize that quite significantly. He's got a thing going with Sam Darnold. So I'm in on Jalen Naylor this week. Wide receiver 40 is a flex play. I think is a valid point. Johnny Bunt, tight end 27. Don't worry about him. You can forget that. DST 24. I don't think it's a good move to play them. And Reichard is kicker 21. There's better kickers. I'm probably sure you aren't starting him. That's for sure. Eagles at Saints. Who would have thought in week 1, when the season started, we would get to week 3, the Saints would be where they are, and they're favorites to win this game. Sorry, excuse me. But the Saints favorite to win this by 2.5. And this over-under is 49.5. That's a really big over and under. And I think that's more than doable in this game. I see points galore. Saints are the only team that scored on every possession, 15 possessions, 15 scores. Phenomenal record by them so far. You can't argue that. The Eagles are in disarray. They've won 2 of their last 11 games. And one of them was against Ben DiNucci and the Giants. And then they lost to Ben DiNucci and the Giants. So they split a series with Ben DiNucci. Got it! Like, come on. It's just mental. Something fundamentally wrong at the organization of the Eagles right now. And for me, Nick Sirianni's in trouble. Like, they got Kellen Moore. You can't tell me this is Kellen Moore's fault. It's not the offense's fault here. They are putting up points. This will be a shooter. I could see this game going either way. If the Saints are on form and stay where they are, this game could be over quick because they have been electric. But that can't continue forever, and it probably won't. I'll start with the Eagles. Hurts is my quarterback 2 this week because, again, that rushing floor rushed for nearly 100 yards this week in week 2. So, he's got that floor. And again, stay the quarterback play. That's going to be exceptional. Saquon Barkley's my RB6 this week. He's a really good bet to continue his fine form and fine start in an Eagles uniform. Sorry, excuse me. I don't have AJ Brown going at this point. If it changes, I'll redo my ranks. But at the moment, it's Devonta Smith. He's my wide receiver 11 this week. That's Goddard is my tight end 4. The Eagles DST are tight end 21. Don't want anyone near them this week. You can stick them well and truly away. But Jake Elliott, you can start. He's my kicker 6. As for the Saints, well, if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to absolutely dominate this game. Good defense, good offense. They have been one of the, if not the best team in the NFL. The way they went into Arlington and absolutely destroyed the Cowboys. You can't argue that. That is a statement win. Like, they absolutely pummeled them. They absolutely made them look average. Carolina week 1. Yeah, right, it's Carolina. Crap. Like, fair enough. Like, all right. You put up a load of points against a really bad team. Like, well done you. But it doesn't send a statement across the NFL. The way they handled the Cowboys, who I don't think had lost a regular season game since 2022. That's quite a statement. That is quite a statement that they have done what they did there. And you have to take them seriously as a result. As I said on Tuesday, this is as good as it gets for Derek Carr, and I have him at average. I have him at QB 16 because I have Alvin Kamara as my RB1. He is the guy right now. He is driving this offense forward. And as someone who was on the Alvin Kamara train all summer, listen to all the podcasts. Go all the way back, no matter who I had on. Pat Fitzmaurice, Jim Coventry, whoever else, Joe Dolan, everyone that was on. I was like, I'm all in. Like, his draft price is ridiculous. I'm in. Like, I'm buying. I have so much Alvin Kamara. It is literally ridiculous. As a result, he's repaying in spades. And he is my RB1. For me, he is the offensive player in football right now. I'm not saying he's replicating 4 touchdowns like he did last week. However, I do think he's going to have a very, very good week against this Eagles defense, who are there for the taking, as we have seen so far this season and last season. I've done it, ladies and gentlemen. I have ranked Rashid Shaheed as a wide receiver 1. I never thought this day would come, and I'm excited about it. I have him at wide receiver 12. That makes him a wide receiver 1. I did it. I never thought it would happen. I can't believe it's happened. I can't believe his day is here, but it is here. He's a legitimate threat. And you'll see lots of stuff on Twitter about, the volume's not there. It's not sustainable. The guy needs 3 catches for 100 yards. He's going to get that in this offense. They are absolutely dealing right now. His matchup's okay. It's not the greatest in history. It's certainly not the worst in history against this Eagles secondary. He could go over the top, 50, 60-yard play. He's almost home to 100 yards. So I don't care about, he's not got that many targets, whatever. I totally get it. But at the moment, he's breaking one big one a game, and that's all he needs. If he's going to take a 50, 60-yard touchdown to the house every week, he's going to be up there as a wide receiver 1 every week because that gets him almost all the way there on its own. Get a few chunk plays underneath, get a couple of rushes, which we've seen. It could happen. So he's my wide receiver 12 this week. I feel pretty good about that one. I'm not giving up on Olave. He's my wide receiver 16. The game script in this game could make Olave come alive here. Because the Eagles will put up points. They will lead at some point in this game. And the Saints won't be up by 20. And I mean, if they are, then that's goodbye Olave. Because he will not be needed. And that's really what's happened. But I think this game will be a little bit closer at least in good parts of this game. And I think a lot of points will be scored. So for me, I will have Olave at 16. Taysom Hill at tight end 16. I don't think you're going to get much higher than that from me at any point. The Saints is the DST 22. I do think they ship points this week. As good as their D is, the Eagles can score points, and I think they will score points this week. They know this is an important win if they can get it, because it kind of justifies where they are in their back. They lose this one, there could be a bit of a slide coming for the Eagles. And Group E is my kicker 10 this week. Again, you can start him. Chargers at Steelers. I can't remember the last time I saw a game with an over-under of 35.5. That's really low. We're basically saying, and the Steelers are favored by 1.5. So we are saying in this game that the final score is going to be somewhere around, 1917? That is what we're saying. 1917, 2017. That's kind of where we're saying this game is going to be, which is lots of field goals, not a lot of touchdowns. And they're probably right. Two good defenses here. But I'm not so sure. That's ridiculously low, if you ask me. I would hit the over because I think that's such a low line that I think it's almost probable that someone will score 20 points in this game. And if that happens, I would expect the other team to get what they need to get this to the over. So, yeah, the way they've got the line is both teams scoring the teens. Don't get many games where that happens. So if someone hits 20 points and the lines are spot on, then the over-under will be blown out here. Let's start with the Chargers. Herbert is questionable. I have him at QB 20. I think he'll be okay. Good defense. He'll be chipped away, but I can't see him turning over the ball loads. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be fine, but it won't be a huge week. Take what you can, move on. Jacob Dobbins, I'll be 32. I think they'll stop the run well. He also doesn't have a huge volume of carries. He's not going to have these big breakaway runs that he's had. Steelers can defend. They have a lot of coverage in that secondary, one of the best in the NFL. When you get to that second level, it's a real tough one for me. I just can't see J.K. Dobbins getting the production or the efficiency off of what he's had so far, because it's efficiency, not volume, that's got him to where he is. And when that happens, the day the efficiency goes, if you base him on his volume, he's going to fall way back down. So RB 32 for me. Edwards is RB 47. He's not been good at all this season. Now, if Dobbins gets more volume, then he could go higher. But on his current volume, at this sort of 50-50 hybrid split, RB 32 is all I can put him at against this D. Ladd McConkey has a phenomenal matchup. Now, hard one to say this against the Steelers, who have been great, but they do have a weak spot in this one. And that weak spot is, with one of their corners. And so Ladd McConkey can take advantage. And I wrote this up for Fantasy Pros. But you've got here this opportunity for him to match up against Beanie Bishop, who is an undrafted free agent. And I think this is an opportunity. This is definitely a Ladd McConkey week, and one that I think he can exploit and get a decent level of points. So he's wide receiver 28 for me. Quentin Johnson, when we talked about, he's wide receiver 32, has a tough matchup against Joey Porter, but there's still one I think he can have some success against. So that's why he's at wide receiver 32. Josh Palmer, I'm out. I'm out until things change. Don't worry about the tight end for the Chargers. DST 7 for the Chargers. I think they'll contain Fields. They won't give up a lot of points or a lot of yards. Cameron Dicker is kicker 16 for me. As for the Steelers, Fields QB 26. Until he starts running the football, he's not doing much in the air, so it's hard to rank him anywhere higher than that. I have Najee Harris at RB 31, and I have Warren at RB 36. They've stopped the run pretty well, the Chargers, so far. I think they'll continue to do that. They'll have to try and find other ways to get these guys sort of more touches. Pickens, wide receiver 34. It's nothing on Pickens. It's all about Fields. There's no one else here to even look at. Freiermuth is my tight end 11 this week. I think there's some, they'll be able to get some movement over the middle again. And that's where they're most likely to have success. If Fields can get away from, some of the coverage and pass rush, a dump off to Freiermuth might be a good way of moving the chains. As for the Steelers, I've got them at DST 6. I think they will do reasonably well this week in containing and trying to get turnovers. And then Boswell kicker 20 overall. Broncos at Bucks. Bucks are favored by 6.5. The over-under is 39.5. I mean, that tells you this is a 20-10 game, really, which I think the Bucks can score more than 20, and I think the Broncos can probably get a little bit more than 10. But yeah, I think for me, like, this feels like a chance for the Bucks to go 3-0. We'll start with the Broncos. I have Knicks at 31. To be honest, they need to get vertical in this game. The Bucks have one of the worst secondaries in terms of personnel and injuries in the NFL currently lined up. So sitting there and like they have to take advantage of that. Sean Payton knows how to get vertical. Bo Nix is going to have to get vertical. But I don't think he is this week. I think that offensive line is a significant problem. And I think the pass rush will get home. I think Todd Bowles will dial up the blitz. And it's going to be a turnover-strewn day for Bo Nix. Let's talk about Javonte Williams and Jamil McLaughlin. I've got them at 30 and 41, respectively. That's Javonte Williams at 30. Again, it's hard to run on this D. Now, they might not have Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. That's going to be a significant help in trying to run this football. But the game script will get away from them. And we've seen that Sean Payton will abandon the run at any given opportunity. Courtland Sutton is wide receiver 43. He could have some success, but it's going to have to come at some form of risk it from this offense, which we've not seen so far this season. The Broncos DST 27, no thanks. Will Lutz kicking in Tampa with a bit of wind, no thanks. I'm out. He's kicker 30. As for the Bucks, Baker Mayfield is my quarterback 8 this week. Probably a bit aggressive, but I think that he can definitely with a rushing touchdown here can really push himself up. Again, more of a statement of where the quarterback play is than how great Baker Mayfield has played. I'm not saying he hasn't been great, but in terms of for fantasy football. Rashad White is questionable. He's my RB16. Bucky Irving, my RB42. It's kind of where I have it. I can see Liam Cohen kind of just going with the run, just control the football, control the tempo, and I think a volume carry will get there. If White doesn't go, then Bucky Irving will shoot up my rankings significantly, and you might see someone else come into the ranks as a result. I have Chris Godwin as my wide receiver 5 again. I don't want a victory lap, but how much did I talk about Chris Godwin this summer, and how much did I say that he was an undervalued asset? Here we are, I'm ranking him at quarterback 5, wide receiver 5, and I'm thinking I could probably rank him higher if I'm honest, but I think 5 is good. He is the third down guy. He's getting all the volume. He's got a near 100% catch rate this season. Pepper with targets. He's definitely where I feel comfortable putting him at 5. Mike Evans is at 20. This is the sort of game that he will love and he will get touchdowns in potentially. So he could elevate from there, but 20 is where I feel good about with him. I have the Bucks as DST2. They are getting turnovers. I fancy him to turn over Bo Nix at least a couple of times in this game. And Chase McLaughlin, I have at kicker 8. As for Packers at Titans, the last game of the early window, last one I'm going to do in this one. Titans are favored by 2. The over-under is 37.5. Here's what I'm going to say at this point of recording on Thursday morning. There are reports that Jordan Love could go. He is practicing. I don't know. I'm going to rank this game where I am right now. And if I get some news tonight and we get into tomorrow, I'll revisit it. Where I am right now is Malik Willis starts this game. And where I am right now is that Josh Jacobs is questionable. Jaden Reed is questionable. There's not a lot here on the offense for Marshawn Lloyd's on IR. There's not a lot on offense for the Packers. And so that's why it's really difficult for me. So I agree with Titans being favorites. It's a bit of a shock to the system. But with Malik Willis, a banged up Josh Jacobs, a banged up Jaden Reed, nothing at tight end, it's hard to go another way. Jordan Love comes back, I'll reevaluate the situation. But that's kind of where I am at the moment with the Packers, and it reflects in my ranks that Malik Willis is quarterback 28. Josh Jacobs is my running back 15, but he is banged up. I expect Emmanuel Wilson to get some touches. I wouldn't start Emmanuel Wilson. If things change, Josh Jacobs can't go. Emmanuel Wilson will shoot right up in my ranks. Don't get me wrong, but it's not where I'm at yet. Jaden Reed is my highest ranked Packers receiver. He is at 56. I don't think that Malik Willis is going to throw for anything more than 100, 150 yards. So I think he's going to get some runs underneath. I think he'll break off a decent run or two and get some rushing yards that will get him to wide receiver 56. But if he's questionable and he loses that, he could go all the way down to wide receiver 100. My advice would be to not start Jaden Reed this week. And if he goes off in the running game, then I'll sleep easy on that. Because I don't think he's getting the reception yards from Malik Willis to get him anywhere better than wide receiver 50. So, with that in mind, if this all changes, Jordan Love is cleared, Jaden Reed is cleared, I'll reevaluate the whole thing. This is how I see it as it stands at time of recording Thursday morning. The Packers I do have as DST 12. I think they will turn over Will Levis, and I think they will get some success there. Maybe even a defensive touchdown to stay in this game. That I could see. Narvelson is my kicker 26. Not going near him. As for the Titans, Will Levis, quarterback 29, just has not been good. Not been good at all. But he has got receivers. But even so, I'm just staying away from all the quarterbacks in this game. No, thank you. I have Tony Pollard at 12. He has been exceptional last week. I expect him to maintain that with a decent performance and a low-end RB1 performance this week. Tajay Spears I have at 45. I expected this backfield to be a bit more even. This is one I will take an L on. It's not proceeded yet. It could happen later in the season, but I actually liked Tajay Spears ahead of Tony Pollard. Round about week 4, I thought that that trajectory would be Pollard's to go down this way and Tajay Spears to go upwards. That's not happened. That's on me. I've not read that situation, but Tony Pollard has done really, really well as well. Tajay Spears has not seized the opportunity as it stands right now. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 22, has a great matchup this week. So even though I've kind of got him wrong twice, I do fancy him to get the best out of this matchup against Jair Alexander. So I do fancy him to make the most of that. I have Chicken Kwanku at tight end 21. I think he could maybe get in the box and dink up a bit, but I don't feel overly confident. Unless you're going for a touchdown or bust option, I wouldn't start him. The DST at 14, I think they can get something on Malik Willis. But Nick Folk is my kicker 28, so no thanks. That's everything for this. Quite in depth. Hope you like this one. I'll do another one in a bit and get that out to you. This is where I stand at time of recording. So, don't at me on Saturday saying, you told me whether this is going to start. I record this at Thursday morning. That's where I am at Thursday morning. Situations change. If they do, I'll try and update as best I can. But this is where I am right now. We're setting lineups for tonight. So we can only go on the information we have right now. Thank you for tuning in. Please do share this with people. And I look forward to chatting more with you all and sharing more thoughts and insights. But until later on today, Rush Nation, don't forget, as always, keep rushing.